Learn English at daily routine. Once upon a time, there was a young man named Daniel. Daniel lived in a small town. He always wanted to learn English, but he was busy with work. Every day, Daniel woke up early in the morning. He worked at a bakery making bread and cakes. His routine was the same every day: wake up, go to work, bake bread, and return home tired. One day, Daniel met his old friend, Maria. Maria was a teacher, and she spoke English very well. Daniel admired her skills and asked, "How did you learn English so well?" Maria smiled and said, "I practice every day. I use English in my daily routine." "It's not hard if you make it a habit." Daniel was curious. "How do you use English in your daily routine?" he asked. Maria explained, "It's simple. I start my day by listening to English songs or podcasts. When I make breakfast, I listen to English conversations. At work, I try to read short English articles during my break. I also talk to myself in English when I'm doing small tasks, like cleaning or cooking." Daniel thought about this, "But I'm so busy at the bakery. How can I do the same?" he asked. Maria replied, "You don't need a lot of time. Just use small moments during your day. When you wake up, say good morning to yourself in English. When you bake bread, think about the steps in English. For example, you can say first, I mix the flour and water. Then, I knead the dough. You can learn new words every day this way." Daniel nodded. It sounded easy. He decided to try it the next day. The next morning, Daniel woke up and said to himself, "Good morning." It felt strange at first, but he smiled. He turned on his phone and played an English podcast while getting ready for work. As he listened, he didn't understand every word, but he caught a few phrases like "How are you?" and "Have a nice day." At the bakery, while making bread, Daniel tried to think in English. Mix the flour, add water, knead the dough. It was difficult, but he kept going. During his break, he read a short English article on his phone. It was about a famous bakery in London. He didn't understand everything, but he learned new words like oven, recipe, and ingredients. In the evening, Daniel practiced more. While cooking dinner, he spoke to himself in English. "I need to chop the vegetables. Now I will fry them." He felt proud. It wasn't perfect, but he was learning. Days passed, and Daniel made English part of his routine. Every morning, he listened to English songs. At work, he tried to use English words while baking. He even started writing down new words in a notebook. In the evening, he watched English videos with subtitles, and he spoke small sentences to himself. After a few weeks, Daniel saw a change. He could understand more words in the podcasts. He could read simple English articles without much trouble. And when he spoke to Maria again, he was able to have a short conversation in English. "You're doing great," Maria said, proud of her friend. See, learning English is easier when you make it part of your daily routine. Daniel smiled. He knew he still had a long way to go, but he was excited to continue. Every day, he felt more confident in his English. It wasn't just about studying. It was about using English in his everyday life. And so, Daniel's journey to learn English continued. He found that learning was not just in a classroom or with a book. It was in the small moments of his day, while baking bread, walking to work, or cooking dinner. By making English part of his daily routine, Daniel was slowly but surely mastering the language. Daniel continued practicing English every day. His routine became smoother as he started adding more English to his daily tasks. One morning, while walking to the bakery, he decided to do something new. Instead of just listening to an English podcast, he tried to repeat some of the phrases. The people on the podcast were talking about their day, so Daniel practiced saying things like, "I woke up early today," and "I'm going to work." At first, it felt strange to talk to himself on the street, but soon Daniel realized that no one was watching him, and it was helping him a lot. He started feeling more confident when he repeated the phrases aloud. He noticed that the more he practiced speaking, the easier it became to form sentences in his head. One afternoon at the bakery, a tourist walked in. The tourist looked confused and couldn't speak the local language. Daniel quickly realized this was his chance to use his English. He took a deep breath and said, "Hello, how can I help you?" The tourist smiled and asked for directions to a nearby museum. Daniel was nervous, but he managed to say, "The museum is 2 streets down. Turn left at the corner, and you will see it." The tourist thanked him and left, and Daniel couldn't believe it. He had just spoken English with a real person. Excited, Daniel told Maria about the experience. "I spoke English at work today. I helped a tourist," he said. Maria was thrilled. "That's amazing, Daniel. You see, using English in real life is the best practice. The more you do it, the better you will become." Daniel realized Maria was right. He felt more confident each day, and it was all because he made English part of his routine. But he wanted to improve even more, so he asked Maria for more advice. Maria suggested, "Try writing in English. Keep a journal. Every night, before you go to bed, write about your day in English. It doesn't have to be long or perfect. Just write a few sentences." Daniel liked this idea. That night, before going to sleep, he opened a notebook and wrote, "Today, I helped a tourist. I told him where the museum is. I felt happy because I used English." It was a short entry, but Daniel felt proud of it. Over the next few weeks, Daniel continued his routine. He listened to English podcasts in the morning, repeated phrases during his walk to work, and thought in English while baking bread. In the evening, he watched English videos, spoke small sentences, and wrote in his journal. One day, Daniel decided to challenge himself. He wanted to read a whole book in English. At first, he thought it would be too hard, but Maria encouraged him. "Start with a simple book," she said, "something made for beginners." Daniel went to the library and found a children's book in English. It was short and had many pictures, but it was perfect for his level. He read a few pages every night before bed. Sometimes he didn't understand all the words, but he used his dictionary to look them up. Slowly, he finished the book. As weeks turned into months, Daniel's English improved a lot. He could now understand most of the podcasts he listened to, and he could read simple books and articles without much difficulty. His speaking was better too. Whenever tourists came into the bakery, Daniel felt confident speaking to them in English. One day, Daniel's boss noticed his progress. "Daniel, your English is getting very good. I'm proud of you," his boss said. "We're thinking of expanding our bakery, and we will need someone to help us talk to international customers. Would you like to take on this role?" Daniel couldn't believe it. His hard work was paying off, and now his English skills were helping him grow in his job. He happily accepted the offer. From that day on, Daniel's daily routine continued to include English, but now with even more enthusiasm. He kept listening to podcasts, reading books, speaking with tourists, and writing in his journal. His confidence grew with every new word he learned and every conversation he had. Maria was proud of him too. "You've come so far, Daniel," she said. "All because you made English a part of your daily life." Daniel smiled. He knew there was still a lot to learn, but he was no longer afraid of the challenge. English had become more than just a subject to study. It was now part of his daily routine, and it had opened many doors for him. He felt excited about the future and all the new opportunities that would come his way. And so, Daniel's journey to learn English continued, but now it was a natural part of his life. He knew that with practice, patience, and a little bit of creativity, he could continue to improve and achieve even greater success.